I like Rob Font in this fight. Cody Garbrandt, I'm not completely sold on him being back as a contender in the bantamweight division. He's taken a lot of damage in his early career. Yes, he's coming off a nice knockout win over Rafael Sunsao, but Rob Font is a much better fighter than that. And Rob Font has come a long way in his striking as well. We saw that in the last fight with Marlon Moraes, where he was able to finish him. I think Rob Font knocks out Cody Garbrandt in this fight. I think Garbrandt's going to resort to his old habits, leave his hands down, and Rob Font's going to take advantage. I think Rob Font's the better fighter, and I think you've seen some power now out of him. I think he takes advantage and gets a knockout win over Cody Garbrandt in this fight, and hopefully gets closer to a title shot.
Oh, man. Before the Sunsao fight, I would have said Rob Font, just because we've seen Cody Garbrandt. We've seen him kind of see red and kind of just blitz forward and get knocked out. Cody seems like a more mature fighter right now. I'm glad this is 5 rounds. We've seen Cody Garbrandt go 5 rounds against Dominic Cruz, who many people consider the greatest bantamweight of all time, and dominantly win. We haven't seen that with Rob Font, so I lean Cody Garbrandt just based on what we've seen in the past. I just think he's one of the 3-4 best bantamweights in the world, and Rob Font just might be the 5th best at worst. But I'm glad this is 5 rounds, and I'm glad Rob Font is getting this platform finally. He deserves it.
Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font. I think this is a tough enough fight to pick. I think Rob Font is a very good technical fighter, as is Cody Garbrandt. Cody's has 2, I suppose, big things for him, and the one big thing against him, he has that high level experience and that big power that can knock anyone out. But he also has the ability to lose, and that chin, if you catch him on it, you can put him out. I feel like Cody's power will take him to the win here in this one, though. I feel like he will be able to catch Rob Font at some stage throughout the fight. Not a big, not a big one with this pick. I'm not really that confident in it, but I'm going with Cody Garbrandt to get the knockout here.
This is a tough fight to pick. Garbrandt has such a huge speed edge over almost any bantamweight. But Rob Font's been looking great at delivering power lately. He's looking like a much more comfortable, confident, technical striker out there. And Garbrandt is awfully hittable. I'm going to pick Cody Garbrandt, though. Gut read is that his speed is just going to be too much for Font, but we'll see.
Yeah, another great fight, but man, I'm kind of thinking Rob Font can get the job done in this one, to be honest with you. Cody Garbrandt is a good fighter, but his chin is very shaky, in my opinion. He's been knocked out a bunch of times in the UFC. Rob Font has huge power. We saw against Marlon Moraes. He's a guy that no one talks about as a contender. This is another classic spot of someone getting completely overlooked. I kind of lean towards Rob Font a little bit. Again, close fight, but I think he can get the job done, man. He's got a lot of power.
Cody Garbrandt and Rob Font sounds like a ton of fun, man. This is a great fight. First, I'm glad that Garbrandt is giving up the 125 experiment that lasted for all of 0 fights. So I'm glad he's not cutting weight unnecessarily. Man, the thing is, what version of Cody Garbrandt are we going to get? Are we going to get the version of him that just beat Rafael Sunsao in the not too distant past? The version of him that was able to beat Dominic Cruz, like the guy who's really technical, really disciplined, and is picking his shots effectively? Or we're going to get the guy who got knocked out by Pedro Munoz and TJ Dillashaw, the one who, once he gets touched on the chin, you know, all bets go off and he just bites down his mouthpiece and starts swinging. Now, that probably won't be as big of a thing with Mark Henry being his primary striking coach now, and he dialed that back a lot against the Sunsao. But I think Rob Font might be the sort of frustrating fighter that might bring that out of him. You know, the guy who's able to consistently put hands on you, consistently move in and out, and really match you as far as boxing ability, because we're talking about probably the 2 best pure boxers at bantamweight outside of maybe Peter Yan. So yeah, I think Rob Font's gonna get this done. I think. And I say that though because I mean Cody's is coming back from a really bad long haul stretch with COVID. So you factor in that with the psychological factor that he has shown himself weak to before, and I don't think this is gonna go well for him necessarily. So Rob Font should get the win here in my book.
Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font. This one is very interesting because I just feel like Rob Font, while not many people are going to have a power edge over Cody Garbrandt, And he did look a lot more patient in his fight with Rafael Assunção. But that was a Rafael Assunção who was a guy who was never going to be much of a striking threat to a guy like Cody Garbrandt, where he's willing to engage and get a little bit wild like the Pedro Munoz's or the TJ Dillashaw sort of. And as for a guy like Rob Font, who is a very good striker, I still think, underappreciated striker after that incredible Marlon Moraes win. He's a long guy, very rangy, can hurt you despite that. I think he just has a lot of ways that he can frustrate Cody, and that is, the way to beat Cody, get him frustrated. I think it would be in Garbrandt's best interest if he would try and mix in the wrestling in this one, which he just really has not done in his career since, maybe Henry Briones. I could be forgetting somebody, but he doesn't really take it there too much these days. He's fallen in love with his striking, and why not when you can knock people out the way that he can? But ultimately, I just think that Rob Font is going to have the keys to victory here with his movement and his range, and he'll end up finding a knockout of his own on Cody Garbrandt, maybe in the second round. I don't think things will get too wild too quickly, but Cody's going to end up getting frustrated, and it's going to cost him, as we've seen in the past.
Oh, this is a very interesting fight, because obviously Cody, he came back, was it 250? Yeah, it was 250 that he came back, the buzzer beater against the Assunção. But then he's been blighted by the after effects of COVID for a long time. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs cardiovascularly. I mean, he wouldn't have entered a fight camp or accepted a fight if he didn't think that he was fit enough. But Rob Font, man, he really, really impressed me, and I've been riding with the New England cartel for a while now, so I'm gonna go with Rob Font. I think he hits ridiculously hard, and although we did see a bit more of a calm and measured Cody Garbrandt, I still think there's that bit of him that when he gets clipped, he sees the red, and that he'll want to get embroiled in a brawl, and you don't want to do that against Rob Font. You saw the TKO stoppage with Marlon Moraes in his last fight, so I'm gonna go Rob Font via second round TKO.
I love so much of what I've seen from Rob lately, but kind of like I made another prediction regarding TJ Dillashaw. Garbrandt's still up there for me. I think he's only lost to some of the best guys. It's not like he has weird losses against people that he necessarily should have beaten. He's lost to top 5 guys. It happens. Now, Corey Sandhagen absolutely is a top 5 guy. Oh, sorry. Who are we talking about here? Let me start this one again. Oh, fine. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have brought up Dillashaw. All right, let me start that one again, Shaq. Okay, two take Alex. That's what they call me. I love a lot of what I've seen from Rob Font. He's earned this fight. I'm glad he's been dying to get a top 5 opponent for so long. So I love that he got the Cody Garbrandt fight. This is probably one of the toughest big fights coming up to predict, but I'm going to lean towards Garbrandt. I still believe he's one of the best finishers at 135. I still believe he's really skilled. I just can't shake the image of the way he schooled Dominic Cruz. I think that is the best version of Cody, and I think that's still in there. And I think that shows up against Rob Font. Then I think we'll see Garbrandt win by KO before the third.